that feeling when you're playing a game, but no one explained all the rules to you? Well, leading a product is exactly like that. You read the job description, take leadership courses, listen to podcasts, but when you actually sit in the chair, you realize there's an invisible manual, a set of rules that never show up on any slide, but that determine whether you'll be respected or just end up as another bureaucratic task manager. And the cruelest part of all this is that no one tells you about it. You only realize it after you've already been blindsided. And look, I think this episode isn't just for people who are officially in leadership positions, but also for product managers who are moving from mid-level to senior, where you really start to leverage your soft skills, your leadership soft power. So the idea today is that I'm going to open up this secret manual, this hidden chest about this invisible leadership, so to speak, and talk about the signs that reveal invisible leadership. So we're going to start here by talking about the invisible rules of product leadership. So the first rule that from all my experience in the entire ecosystem I'm part of, I see that it's precisely this invisible hand of influence. So the first rule is very simple. Your title matters much less than you think. So being a product lead, head, director, senior product manager, whatever it is, might look powerful on LinkedIn. It looks good, it's attractive, you kind of fill a void that exists inside you, right? Up to that point, we know that's fine. But inside the company, what really shapes your authority are the small signals, right? So it's, for example, a strategic silence in a meeting, right? An eyebrow raised at the right moment, an apparently casual comment. All of that can redirect the course of a team. This is the kind of leadership no one teaches you, the leadership that happens between the lines. And this is exactly where the connection with the second rule begins, because if influence isn't in your job title, where is it? And then comes the second rule, which to me makes a lot of sense and really connects with the first. It's in the invisible network of power that every organization has. So have you ever noticed that in any company, there's always that person who doesn't have a leadership title, but without their approval, nothing moves forward. And that's right, the official organizational chart is just theater. I'm sorry to tell you, maybe you've known this for a long time, or maybe you just closed your eyes to it and didn't want to pay attention to this situation. But the official organizational chart really is just theater, because the real hierarchy lies in relationships, in silent alliances. And here's where a dilemma arises. You don't build alliances by asking, hey, shall we be allies? You build them by being present. And being present here doesn't mean physically being at the company. I think that's a good topic for a future episode, but presence can be and is strengthened. Also in remote environments, in remote relationships, in remote contexts. And I dare say maybe even more so. But that really is a topic for another episode. I think it's going to be very interesting. So to recap, you build by being present, providing value, listening when no one else does, and above all, knowing when to push and when to pull back. And it's at this point that the third invisible rule comes in. Because it's no use navigating the political game well if your team doesn't trust you. Watch out for that, okay? Because in the corporate world, there's still the belief that a strong leader is one who never shows weakness. Even though in recent times there's been a lot of talk about the power of vulnerability, empathy, trust bonds, and so on, there still is a very strong stigma in the corporate world related to the fear of showing weakness, right? So the fear of showing that you're afraid, right? But in product, the way I see it, the way I perceive things is the opposite. Your team actually trusts you more when you admit, I made a mistake, right? Because that vulnerability combined with transparency, right, builds a solid foundation of credibility. It's not about following procedures or pretty speeches. It's about consistency, even when it hurts. Those tough conversations you'd love to put off, you know the ones? It's exactly those that define your authority. Obviously, what we're talking about here are difficult conversations being led in a very gentle, very respectful way, very assertively, so that something can be redirected, not to impose authority, but so that things move toward the value you want to achieve, whether that's with your team or with internal partners. Anyway, I think this is pretty clear. When we talk about defining authority, that's what we mean. It's about reputation, about credibility. And then, and all of this leads us to the next invisible rule, because just being transparent isn't enough. The product leader also needs to see what no one is saying. And that's what I call the art of anticipation. We can call it that because I see this as the real game changer. The best leaders, in my view, don't wait for a problem to appear. They read the signs. They notice discouragement in a meeting, realize that a stakeholder's request will create, I don't know, an absurd amount of technical debt, sense the team's discomfort before the team even says anything. And we can only achieve this kind of awareness when we're present, practicing presence with that team. So if you find yourself in a leadership position, then lead, take the initiative and lead, because that is exactly what people expect from you as a leader. So still talking about this ability to anticipate, it's important to be clear that anticipating doesn't mean doing more. It means seeing things ahead of time. And when you do that, you create a space of psychological safety because the team trusts you, because they feel that you don't just react, you anticipate, right? And maybe you don't have the skill, and that's okay, to predict everything, but you can start to pull the thread, right? I use this expression a lot. You can pull the thread and then unravel things, right? Or build something there with your team, understanding what's coming, what's happening, that no one is, that isn't being said openly, or that's just there in the environment. You pick up on it. So pulling the thread of the story. And if you noticed, all these rules connect to reach the final point, which isn't about what you say, but about the trail you leave behind. I think reflecting on the trail we leave is so amazing because it makes you question yourself. You look back and ask yourself, what kind of trail am I leaving behind? So I think reflecting on the trail we're leaving is fantastic for us to, and not just for leaders, I think for any kind of professional at any level, understanding how you are guiding yourself, what your path is really like. So in the end, no one is going to remember your job title on LinkedIn or the OKRs you presented on colorful slides, right? What remains is your example. So if you interrupt others in meetings, that behavior spreads, okay? If you share credit, that becomes part of the culture, right? Because people notice, people feel it. No one is naive, right? People aren't naive. People are paying attention, or at least they should be, right? To what's happening around them. So the ultimate goal of product leadership is this: to turn other people into leaders. Because true impact doesn't come from centralizing things, but from leaving a legacy of autonomy, from leaving a trail that people want to follow, that people want to be inspired by, more than just follow, but truly be inspired. I think that's the word, a strong word that we use so casually, but it's so impactful in its action. That people should really think about every action they take. Think about how I'm inspiring others to do the same, or to do better, especially to do better. So as we head toward the end here, I wanted to recap the rules. So your influence doesn't come from your position, but from subtle signals. The real organizational chart is invisible, and you need to learn how to read it. This is fundamental. This will give you maturity, transparency, and vulnerability, build more authority than control ever could. Anticipating is worth more than reacting. And the ultimate legacy is cultural, not personal. So that's what needs to be very clear. Reflect on whether you're leading by the written rules or if you've already started playing by the invisible ones. Because it's those that determine who will just be another manager and who will truly make history with the product. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for your company. It was a great conversation. I also hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.